What an amazing scene from one of my favorite movies, Lord of the Rings, when Gandalf makes that very powerful statement and he says, "You shall not pass." In this video, I'd like to speak to you about boundaries and how we can maintain and establish and maintain healthy boundaries. Now, you don't have to be as dramatic as Gandalf, but it is important that we establish boundaries in our life, because we all come across our own version of the Balrog, don't we? Because there are different personalities. Now, I'm not a therapist or a psychologist or anybody trained in that field, but through my own research and through my own experiences of life, I've come across different personality types that do sometimes cross boundaries. These could be sociopathic individuals, sociopaths. They could be psychopaths, even psychotic personalities, or your garden variety narcissists. They're everywhere. You know, there are personality types that are bipolar, there are neurotic individuals, there's all sorts of healthy and very unhealthy personality types. Now, I'm not judging anyone, and you know, I don't really understand. I'm still, you know, in the learning process of trying to understand what makes somebody a narcissist or what makes somebody a sociopath. They probably have their own things that have happened to them in their life that have made them the way that they are. One thing that I know, and I'll share this quote with you, is a very, very powerful quote. And I think about this very often. And that quote is that hurt people hurt people. Hurt people hurt people. And healed people heal people. Healed people heal people. Hurt people hurt people. Healed people heal people. Right? And we've got to all individually go towards our own healing journey so that we can be a source of inspiration and healing to others. But anybody that sort of is acting a certain way, they probably have their own reasons for being nasty or crossing boundaries, and you know, and all the rest of it. But despite that, what's important is protecting our boundaries, to be able to establish, maintain and protect our boundaries. It's so vital. And in this video, I'd like to give you some thoughts about how to do that. We need to establish healthy boundaries, first and foremost, to protect our own well-being, so that we're not overextending our energy, so that we're not sort of running ourselves into the ground. It's so important that we protect our own sense of emotional, mental, and physical well-being. Number one, we need to establish healthy boundaries for our own sense of self-respect and self-esteem. Any relationship should be based on mutual respect and dignity of the individuals involved. Maintaining healthy boundaries is important because it maintains balance. Any relationship is based on give and take. It's not just a one-way streak. It's not just one-sided. It's giving and receiving. And it's important to maintain that balance so that you don't just become somebody that is dependent on someone, or just a doormat that is somebody just somebody that's another person can just abuse or take advantage of, or just walk all over. When you maintain healthy boundaries, it can help you in conflict resolution, where there's disagreements, where there's misunderstandings, where you have clear boundaries sort of communicated and established. That it gives you a framework in which to work through areas of conflict, areas of disagreement, misunderstandings. So for all of these reasons, our ability to establish, maintain, protect boundaries is essential, as I said, for our physical, mental, emotional well-being. So the question is, how do we start to do this? How can you start to establish healthy boundaries in your life? And this can be in your relationships, in the workplace, in any situation where you need to actually establish boundaries. So I'm going to give you 3 simple tools for doing so. Step number 1, self-awareness. this is the starting point of many, many different areas of personal development and personal growth and transformation. But only when we are aware of a situation, only when we are aware of our thoughts, our emotions, our feelings around things, can change really happen. You know, sometimes somebody can cross a boundary, or somebody can do something that where you feel disrespected, or you feel not very comfortable with it, but we sort of brush it under the carpet, we ignore it. Really, this first step is about bringing things to your awareness. Where do you feel that your boundary has been violated? And as always, I would recommend journaling and writing that down, writing your thoughts and feelings down, because as you bring things to your awareness, say, oh, I wasn't quite happy about that. I felt a little bit uncomfortable about that situation. I felt disrespected in that situation. Just to acknowledge that and become aware of it yourself is a powerful first step. Secondly, the step is, once you have actually sort of journaled and become aware of your feelings around things, and you're going to require some courage and some bravery for this next step, and that is clear communication, clear, assertive communication. And I'll do another video on how we can develop the skill of assertiveness, but to be able to communicate very clearly what you felt uncomfortable about, what you felt was a violation of your boundary, is so important. And the way in which you do this is you start with the words I. I felt uncomfortable when. I need you to XYZ, change this behavior or whatever it may be. But you start with I feel, or I felt, or I did not like it when. So it's very important to have that clear, very concise and assertive communication. And lastly, once you have developed sort of the awareness, once you have actually communicated to the other party about what your boundary actually is, then it's very important to consistently stick to your boundaries, consistently apply that principle of what you have established. You know, the line in the sand shouldn't move around. It shouldn't be something a boundary that is flexible. So consistently sort of establish, once you've said no to something, it means no. Once you have sort of, said this is important to you, then that should be respected. And by consistently sort of maintaining your boundary, it sends a message to that other person that you mean business. That you're not messing around here, that boundary is important for you. So these are three sort of like areas, three tools that you can use to start to establish what your boundaries are. And as always, step number one, that self-awareness piece, journaling, is so vital and important, because boundaries can be crossed in many different situations. In a family situation, right? In a relationship, there are boundaries. There are things that are going on where you need to actually establish what your actual boundaries are, what you're comfortable with, what you're not comfortable with. In a professional situation, in a work setting, there's loads of examples where, and I hear it all the time in my work, where boundaries are crossed, where a boss has sort of demanded that somebody work overtime, or they're sort of doing work, expected to do work, after hours, or there's so many different areas, workload, stress, so many different areas where if we don't establish these boundaries, if we don't actually sort of say what we're comfortable with, we can be taken advantage of. We can have our own mental, emotional and physical well-being impacted in a negative way. So it's so important. Now, as I said earlier, you don't need to be as dramatic as Gandalf, and maybe the people in our life are not as scary as the Balrog, or maybe they are. I don't know the personality types that you're dealing with, but certainly I would say to you that developing that spirit of thou shalt not pass, is so important, because it is that sentiment that is going to give us that sense of security, that sense of well-being, and that sense of happiness in our life as we encounter all different types of energies and different types of people. It's just going to give us a sense of moving through life in a more secure and happy way. I hope this video has been of benefit to you. I hope you found it interesting. I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel, and I would be very, very appreciative if you could like, subscribe, and comment. Thank you so much.